Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Retail Shenanigans. Today is a very awesome episode. Not only are we finally past the 50 subscriber mark as of this episode, we are growing. There is now a channel, a group for the channel up on YouTube that if you are interested in, you are able to find as well. The new logo and banner are up for my channel, and we're just rolling and going ahead and gaining steam. Everybody who's been here supporting us from the beginning, I really appreciate it, and we're just going to continue to keep growing and having a great time. Today, my guest is Jason. He is the husband of a longtime friend of mine. Met him a couple times. Fantastic person. Had a great time hanging out with him both times I met him. And from once he heard this and he saw it, he was all aboard. So, Jason, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, what's up, Ray? How you doing, man?
I'm good. Little tired. I have a work schedule's been crazy. We're coming off of kind of declining a little bit from the whole Corona craziness, and Texas is reopening, so we're really, I don't know how to say, back to normal, even though we still have a little bit of procedures and things that we have to do. But
Well,
unfortunately, I've gone through. I hate to be this person, but I've probably gone through like 3 or 4 staff members in the past couple months, just because people,
that's
yeah, people not wanting to work or just calling off too much, and and of course, it's
well,
nothing like
people are
virus
afraid.
related. Yeah, no, I totally get it, 100%. And I fully, support, people's decision to stay home and take care of their family, 100%. It's just, from the retail standpoint, it's really hard when you're the manager and, you get a call half an hour before your third shifter is supposed to show up and they're calling off on you after you've already worked all day. And then you go
Yeah.
in, yeah. So that was me.
I
That was me
feel
last
that in my
weekend.
bones.
Yeah, that was me all last weekend. And then because they just straight up quit, now this weekend, because I'm a nice person, I told my assistant, don't worry about it. You work the first shift. I said, I'll work third shifts this weekend. I said, but I'm taking off Monday and Tuesday because I'm not working from 10 p.m. Sunday night until 2 p.m. Monday. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, sir.
100. I've
No,
done
sir.
it. I haven't done quite 10 to 2, but I've done pretty damn close. I did like 10 to 10, and my boss came in the next day, and he was like, so did you get somebody to cover last night? And I said, no. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I worked it. And he said, and you're still fucking here? I said, what else am I supposed to
Yeah,
do?
I'm here.
Right.
This is
Like,
that's the managerial side of it, man. I mean that I like before we get into talking about that.
yeah,
That's
no worries.
been a big part of my retail experience. I did a lot of retail management and commission sales too
Ooh.
for Guitar Center, H. Gregg, a bunch of different places. And I mean, especially in commission sales, that shit's cutthroat,
Oh my
man. A
God.
lot of people, a lot of people. I'm a firm believer in. I mean, you say it a lot on the show that you think people should work at least a year in retail.
Yes.
To have that experience. I agree with that, but I would see that and add to work at least a year, 6 months to a year in some kind of commission-based environment
Yeah.
where it's your work ethic is what gets you paid, not just sitting
100%.
behind a desk or sitting behind a cash register or something like that, where if you don't actively go engage the customer,
Yep.
you don't get paid.
Yeah. My thoughts on, don't get me wrong, commission sales can be fucking fantastic.
Oh
It
yeah.
absolutely can be. You can make a boatload of money and you can really just go out and just destroy it and just bring home, thousands of dollars in checks. But then
Mhm.
either it's then you get your valleys where you get your seasons where it's not happening, or
Oh
you
yeah.
get the other side of that is when you get assholes who will try to sneak around and steal your sale. And I've had that happen before too. And man,
Carpet
it's
sharks.
yes.
That's what we used to call them. We used to
Oh
call
my
them carpet
God.
sharks, man.
Uh,
Guys that would just sit there and wait till you got about 20 feet away and then right in there and
hmm
grab your customer. Hmm.
We had a thing where, yeah, we were hourly at Gander Outdoors, but we also made commissions on selling the memberships and getting people to sign up for credit cards and whatnot. So it wasn't strictly just commission based on sales, but you got a
Right.
good bit extra money for getting this stuff. And if like you sold like a 3 year plan versus a 1 year plan, it went from, and like if your percentages were pretty good, you could go from making $2 to making like $20 just for, which
Yeah.
again, not saying anywhere near like say car salesman or anything, but
Right.
if you've sold like a couple of those in a night and get your numbers jacked up, you can walk out of there making a couple extra dollars an hour. So,
Hmm.
and a buddy of mine I actually used to work with at Rent-A-Center, him and I were both assistant managers. He was a car salesman, and he said he did it for years. And he said he actually got into two fist fights with people going up and taking his sales.
Jesus.
Swear to God.
Yeah, man, it gets bloody, dude. It gets bloody. Anyone, if anyone wants to know what actual old school commission sales was, go watch the movie Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yes, love that
Okay.
movie.
Yeah,
Fucking love
yeah.
that
I will
movie.
at some point in my life I will have ABC tattooed on me somewhere.
Yes,
Always be closing. Like, I've had managers that have given speeches like Baldwin
yes.
does in that movie to the group of salesmen. Like it could, like you said, it could be incredibly rewarding, but it can be soul crushing at the same time. That's why I don't do it anymore.
Oh, most
That's why I don't
definitely.
do it anymore.
And
I wanted to stop doing it before I hated it.
right, most definitely. And that's the thing too. Like, there's a fine line between being great at what you do and enjoying it to getting to a point where it's like, all right, now I'm getting burnt the fuck out, and it's just killing me. We had at FYE, it terrible place to work for, but I was the manager there, and if your employees couldn't get people to sign up for magazines or get them to get the FYE club membership, they would straight up tell you to cut their hours and fire them.
Phew.
Straight up.
Yo.
Disgusting.
Yeah,
Disgusting.
no, you go in there and you train that person. You spend time
Exactly.
with that person. You don't just cut. I mean, the worst part of retail in general is the turnover rate.
Yeah.
Nobody stays in any kind of fast paced retail for any long amount of time if that's the way it is. Like that when I worked in those commission environments for
Hmm.
Guitar Center first and then for H Gregg, um, that was the main goal of the management for those places. It was like if your numbers are down, I'm not just going to kick you to the curb and find somebody else. That's more, and also it's more work for the manager.
Right.
So what's easier, finding someone and then training them from the bottom up, or just fine tuning
Right.
this person who's already here, already knows the policy.
Right.
You know?
See what little kind of like just panache you can add to their sales pitch, or
Yeah,
see what like
absolutely.
if this isn't working this way, try it a different way. 100%, I agree with you. One thing I
Hmm.
used to not exactly the Glenn Ross, but it's as much of a fantastic movie that is, and it's still like top 30 in my favorite movies. Because I've been in sales my whole life, but the speech from Wolf of Wall Street and from
Yes.
uh, not Charlie Sheen, but his dad, Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen's speech from Wall
Yeah,
Street.
Wall Street. Yeah.
Greed
Hmm.
is good. I don't care who you are. That thing will get you out there trying to sell fucking ice to an
Hmm.
Eskimo, man.
Yep. Precisely. Sugar to a diabetic.
That's fucking right, and that's the fucking motivation you want for your people. God, I remember like just so many. I know we still haven't started any of the questions. But that's totally fine.
That's all good.
I have a passion in sales. Like I've always like even in retail stuff, it's always been something that we've done. The 5 years I worked at seven or not 7-Eleven, sorry, Turkey Hill when I was in Pennsylvania. Every year we would get crushed in this tasty cake pie contest where they were like two for two, and like the winning store it was like something like $50 or whatever that each employee got. But still, when you're
Hmm.
making like $7 an hour, an extra $50
Oh
in your
yeah.
paycheck is fucking godsend. um, but we were just tired of every year we kept losing and losing. So one year, the store that won every year was just talking smack at this meeting. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So I went in and I made sure I motivated everybody. And not only did we win, but we fucking smoked the other store.
Crushed it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. It was so much fun. And then just to be able to go to the meeting the next month and be like, hey, fuckers, how's it feel to lose? Exactly. So, with
Yeah,
all that
man.
being said, now that everybody listening know that you and I are greed mongers who want to work on Wall Street,
Yeah, we're insane workaholics that money is just all the factors.
be like, what is? I can't think of his name now in Wolf of Wall Street. Fuck the guy with the whiskey. All right,
Oh
all right, all
no.
right.
Oh yeah, there's fucking Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey. He's like, yeah, people are gonna be thinking you and I are just jerking off, thinking about money,
Yeah,
doing coke in the bathroom.
exactly.
Oh my god, I
Should
love
write
that.
that down in the description.
That is
We're both dads, man. We're both dads.
fantastic. Yes, and by the way, your son is absolutely adorable. I cannot
Dude,
get
like,
over.
uh, man, kids sharpen you, man. Like when I first met Tiff and I met Noah, that was the first pass
Mm-hmm.
on the stone. And he luckily that prepared me quite a bit for Alex to come as much as you can't prepare for something
Right.
like that.
Most definitely.
But dude, like if we'll get into it. But I grew up a fuck up, man.
Right.
And then through all that, and then having Alex, now having the two boys and everything, it's just like focus.
Right.
It's just laser. I'm like, I can't be that dude anymore.
No, most definitely.
You know?
I was married before, and when my first marriage, I was working full time at I keep saying 7-Eleven. Jesus, I'm getting my current job mixed up at Turkey Hill. So I would work full time there and work like whatever, like 2 to 12 or whatever, and then I would do online college at night from like, I don't know, from like 1 until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then get up the next day, go to work, do it all again. And I thought I was exhausted doing that. No.
Oh yeah, man. No.
There are days
Children
when,
will teach you. Children will teach you just how much sleep you were getting.
yeah. And it's like my buddy, I was just actually talking to a buddy of mine today, and I was explaining to him how like my typical days go. And he's like, I don't understand how you have time to put one of these videos up every day. I said, well, I make time. I said, I get up at work. I get up in the morning at 4 a.m. so I can be at work by 6 because I drive an hour to work. I said, I work all day, and then I come home. So my wife can go to work at night. I make sure they eat dinner, bathe them, bath. As soon as they're in bed and they're kind of simmered down, I kind of did my own little noise canceling system because I'm recording right outside of the room, so I've got like blankets up against it. Not that I'm trying to like suffocate my kids in the room or something, but you get what I'm saying. Disclaimer: I love my kids.
More stuff in the description box below.
Yes, but it's like I make time for it, and they're like, well, I would be exhausted because then some nights I'm crawling into bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then it's I'm up the next day, but I'm like it's my kids prepared me for that. I'm fine. Like I look at it as a way my daytime job is what pays the bills, and this is just something I enjoy to do. And I'm very grateful that my wife supports me and gives me the time to do this. But I also make sure that I spend time with her too, because like on the weekends, if I'm off, I try to do 2 or 3 of them at a shot just to get them stored up. So that way during the week, if she's off, I can be like, fuck it, I'm not recording any tonight. I can sit and watch a movie.
Yep. Bank them.
Yes, I do. 100%. But anyway, now we can finally move in now that everybody, again, has a good idea of who we are here. How long have you worked in retail, Jason?
I mean, between retail commission, retail customer service.
All of that. I branch all of that in.
I'd say about 18 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
18. And where would you say you're... See, and I always hate asking this because everyone's like, it's a kind of a toss-up. But so with all of that encapsulated, what was your first sales, retail, whatever job that you had?
First job in that was for the Hershey Company, working for Hershey Country Club. Back when I really couldn't work legally, I was working at 14 on the range at Hershey Country Club.
Is that like Hershey Chocolate Factory, like up in Hershey?
Well, it's same company owns the golf course. So yeah, I was working at the golf courses on the driving range, and basically they paid me in rounds of golf. So I would just kind of I've been playing since I was 7, so
Right.
like it was a cool little summer thing. My dad would take me with him to work. That's where he worked too.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
hold on, Ray.
you're fine. Sorry, everybody. A little break in the call. That's okay. Moment of technical difficulties. We'll be right back on in a minute. Anybody out there listening, again, we're just having a momentary disruption. Jason had to take another call real quick. No worries. We'll be back on here in a second. Again, for anybody listening, know that anybody who works in a sales environment knows that you got to kind of do what you can to really boost your sales numbers and get your head in the game. And to be able to do that, certain movies like, again, Wolf of Wall Street, and Glengarry Glen Ross are great movies to get you and your team motivated. So just make sure if you guys are ever out there and you get to come across these movies and you do work in these kind of sales environments, they are fucking helpful. As crazy as they are helpful.
Oh, hey, hey, all right,
Hey, back all right.
back. I am back, sir.
No
I had to take
worries.
a phone call there.
No, no, no. You're okay.
Sorry about that.
I was regaling the listening audience while we waited for you to come back with if you do work in a sales job to really give those couple movies a listen, and they will definitely get you pumped to do some sales.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
oh, now after people are going to go watch Wolf of Wall Street, and they're just going to be going ready to sales counter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yo, man,
All right, so
that's
we were
that's
talking. No worries. We were talking about your first retail job.
yeah. So I mean, working the range when I was 14,
Mm-hmm.
I would go with my dad, and I would I would get the day ready for the members and stuff, and I would
Mm-hmm.
go out and I'd pick up the balls and stuff and wash them and reload them and all that. And then when that kind of like my day would lull,
Mm-hmm.
I would just put my clubs on a cart and I would go out and play golf. And then a couple hours later, I'd come back and I'd keep doing the thing until my dad had to go home from work. So yeah, that was my first first foray into it. And then
So
you
were
know
you out there with
as
like a mattress on your back so you didn't get fucking swatted?
well, I mean, being 14 and everything, I couldn't legally drive a cart, so I had to
Right.
like sit with the dude in there, and that brought me into meeting like the first mentor in sales. His
Mm-hmm.
name is Roy Summers, who still works at the club. He's in his 90s,
Jesus.
and
Dedication.
yeah, yeah, and I would sit with him in there, and he would just talk about working for Hershey for however long he was working at that point in time,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like I can get into it, and so yeah, I that was my very very first job that wasn't even really a job, and then when I turned 16 and could legally work, they put me on the books, and then I was working on the range or in the pro shop or anything like basically anything that I could do, I did.
Okay. And when we first started talking, you had mentioned that you were sales at Guitar Center. Now, I
Mhm.
honestly didn't know that that's how that shop ran. So did you have any kind of base pay or was it all sales?
It was well before I started working there, it was strictly commission, but then they brought in an hourly draw rate.
Okay.
So you got paid an hourly rate, but you got paid commission as well. So you
Right.
go through your day, and you'd have goals to hit. If you
Hmm.
hit if you hit your goals, and your commission pay was more than your hourly, you'd get your commission pay. But if you didn't make, say your commission didn't make your hourly rate, you would still get paid your full 40 hours.
Oh,
So
so it
you still
wasn't
have
like commission on
yeah,
top of hourly. It was one or the other.
it was. There were bonuses and stuff that were
Okay,
on top of
gotcha.
the hourly.
Okay,
But if you were working commission, you either got paid your hourly rate, or if you kicked ass, you got paid your commission rate.
gotcha.
Which you're still working 40 hours. It's not like they
Right,
were pushing more out of you and not paying you for it.
right,
There were guys in there. There were guys working in there that were veterans that were working 25, 30 hours a week and making more money than someone making $20 an hour working 60 hours a week. So
right.
it
Most
was it was a
definitely.
it was a great job. It was a lot of fun,
And then,
especially for a musician.
oh yeah, because I'm sure you not only just got to talk your passion all day, but also got to be able to like run into like people that you met that I'm sure you might have at some point had jam sessions with, or just had a really interesting take on music.
Oh yeah, no, I ran into a lot of cool characters, and got a lot of great gigs out of it too. I hired the guy that I was touring with for 5 years, was a guy I hired.
Wow.
Out of the blue, came into the shop, knew a lot about what he was talking about, was active in the scene. Hired him on about a week and a half in. He's like, "Man, I need someone to play drums on my record." And I'm like, "Well, I've been playing, I've been playing since I was 11, and
Right.
I've been recording in the studio since I was 11 or 12. That's what my teacher. That's how my teacher taught me.
Right.
He didn't put a book in front of me. He put a musician in front of me. He's like, figure out how to play with that dude.
Gotcha.
So that was just kind of a natural thing, and that came after I spent from 14 to 22. Yeah, 14 to 22 working at the country club.
Okay.
And then there was a shift. It was like I really wanted to be in higher level sales,
Right.
and I was looking for a job in the pro shop as like an assistant professional or something.
Hmm.
And they ended up giving that job to a kid that was in college. So I was like, okay, well, my opportunity is not here anymore. It's there.
Right.
And so that versioned that opportunity into moving into actual sales and retail.
Most definitely. And you had also mentioned that you worked at H. Gregg.
Mhm.
Now, I think that's a unique opportunity that you and I share, because H. Gregg was a company that, now, I don't know if they might still have some, but they went bankrupt, right? And they closed their
Oh
stores?
yeah, big belly up. They've got a couple. I think they've got store one in
Okay.
Indiana still open as a brick and mortar. But yeah, someone came out, bought out the company, closed all the stores, kept I think a couple of them, and made it basically online retail.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
The original Gander Mountain that I worked for a few years. I was with them. I started part time, then went full time, and then became a supervisor out there. Um, the owner of the company just didn't give a fuck anymore. Like, he got super old, and then
Sure.
he hired Circuit City executives to run his business.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, so they ran it into the ground, and they didn't give a fuck, because then when it went under and it got bought out by the guy who owns Camping World, they just all got a big old fat check, and then
Hmm.
then I guess they tried to do some other stuff, but then like the guy who bought them was like, well, you guys have 2 weeks to quit, or I'm firing you, and but anyway, that's all. Even that company's kind of going belly up now because they want to close down stores after they open them and
It's
whatever.
tough,
That's
man, with all of the online
yeah,
things right now. Especially with like just the biggest example is Amazon. There's hundreds of examples out there that are slowly picking apart the brick and mortar retail
yeah.
industry. But Amazon, I remember when Amazon got the Samsung contract,
Mm.
when they got their Samsung contract for Samsung Electronics,
Yeah.
and at the time, H. Gregg had the most televisions for purchase and on display out of any appliance or electronics retail in the United States,
Gotcha.
including Best Buy.
Wow.
And then Amazon comes in and they not only are price matching,
Right.
but they have lower prices than us.
Yeah.
So not only are they price matching us when we're lower, but we now have to price match them.
Right.
And
And
so it was this just sliding scale of bullshit that
one.
ultimately led to H.H. Gregg biting off more than they could chew.
Right, and they didn't have the overhead that you guys have. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't fully understand how, like, I know Amazon has their warehouses and things of that nature, but Amazon doesn't have to pay a store manager to run a store and then employees
Oh,
to
hell
sell the
no.
merchandise. Doesn't have to pay to keep lights on. You know.
Yeah, when you're dealing with when you put it into competition a company that can only buy 40 of these particular televisions, and then you put them in competition with a company that can buy 40,000.
Right.
There's their cost on buying those pieces is nothing compared to the cost that you have to put out only being able to buy 40. There's no possible way to stay in competition when their profit margin is that high.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right, and another thing I've ran into, as well with a lot of big box chains is, yeah, a company will get X amount of discount to buy in bulk, but then
Hmm.
still, if you're only making this much on it for one, and then you're sitting on this much merchandise that you can't sell. I
Hmm.
mean, it was a funny joke, but it really wasn't funny. There, back at Gander Mountain days, there was a tackle bag. It was a Gander Mountain branded tackle bag that we sold. It was like for $15 or whatever. They set, so when the final inventory was set and they were selling through everything that got liquidated and things got sold off to other companies, they said they had enough of those bags where they could sell 10 a day for the next 5 years and still not run out.
Jesus.
Yeah, fucking astronomical, just astronomical amounts of inventory. That was just not
Holy crap.
exactly 100%.
That's insane.
Yeah, so if you want to know
Wow.
a quick way to lose your business and to go bankrupt, there you go.
Bingo. Another thing for the description box. There we go.
Yes, definitely.
Ways to bankrupt your business.
Step one. Step two: do cocaine in the bathrooms.
Hmm. Every time you sell a bag.
Right, right, exactly. Go sell it. Go celebrate with some nose candy.
Yes. Just throw a couple ounces in there. No one's going to know.
That's right. Come out with Night at the Roxbury playing.
Yeah. Break a couple windows.
That's right.
I'm in.
So then, with your 18 years, Jason, you've really answered a lot of my questions so far. And another, kind of halfway through, I like to kind of have people reminisce back about the good and the bad.
Hmm.
So we're going to start with the good because I feel it's always good to start with that, and then we go bad, and then we finish off good as well. With just like, something to say to the people who are working.
I don't know.
But right now, really what I want to ask you is through your 18 years, what would you say if you had to, what would you say is your best memory from working retail? Like something that if you were having the worst day, this is the thing that helped you kept going. Like this is the memory that got you through.
it, it's gotta be Black Fridays. And I know I say that, and people are like, I know. I say that,
Oh boy.
and people are like, Black Friday? Are you kidding me? And also, people that might be listening to this now, I worked for, when I first was hired I was hired in 2011 by Guitar Center.
Okay.
So I mean that's nearly 10 years ago, and in those 10 years, Black Friday has completely changed.
Yes.
It's not anywhere near as ridiculous as it used to be. But my fondest memory of retail is Black Friday 2013. At this point, I'm an assistant manager. I started in the drum department,
Okay.
moved out to guitars and audio, and then I was made an assistant manager.
Okay.
So, I've got keys, I've got, and by the way, Guitar Center assistant managers at the time, are still expected to
Make
they're still
sales.
expected to hit commission goals, make sales, and to remain in that position, you have to be top two in the store. So at this point, I'm selling my nuts off,
Right.
and it comes Black Friday, and it was the best Black Friday that store 854, that particular Harrisburg location, had ever had. And we were there from it was the first year they did the whole opening Thanksgiving night
Gotcha.
and staying open until Saturday morning,
Okay.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I got done with dinner. I got done with Thanksgiving dinner,
Right.
and I immediately went into work. And my shift was from 6 p.m. Thursday night
Okay.
to 6 a.m. Saturday morning.
Woo-wee.
So I had this. Now there were plenty of breaks and hours and stuff like
Right.
that where you could get off the floor. It wasn't,
Right.
pedal to the metal the whole time. But there was this one point, and we were busy the whole time. We were going crazy.
Mm.
We done a solid eight. We did a solid 6 weeks of promotion
Right.
beforehand. So I mean, we were handing out flyers, giving out deals and stuff. All that
Right.
these deals work. You're getting this deal now on contingent. You're coming back on Black Friday.
Right.
If you don't come back on Black Friday, you're never getting this deal again.
Right.
And so I had my whole team in there, and we did, group meetings, because we would be open from, this time to this time. Then we close the store down a little bit to clean up. We do our group meetings, and we got to a point where it was just kind of hitting on all cylinders. We had
Right.
5 deep at every register, and I was just keeping going. And I had my team rotating in and out, so everybody was getting paid.
Good.
Everybody was hitting commission, and I'll never forget 8 p.m. In fact, it was 8:37. That's how ingrained this is. 8:37
All right.
p.m. Friday night on Black Friday. The whole sales floor is going nuts,
Mm.
and over the loudspeaker, I pay my dues. Time after time, like We Are the Champions starts
Right.
playing over the loudspeaker, and all of a sudden the whole sales floor goes quiet, and every single musician that's in there, customer or I'm standing at the electronics register, like kind of almost misty-eyed, because A, this is pretty emotional, and B, I've been awake for 27 hours.
Right.
And I'm standing behind the counter. The whole sales floor goes a little quiet, and then it kind of starts back in acoustics, and the whole store starts singing "We Are the Champions." The whole entire store starts singing it while everyone's
God.
working. We haven't
Right.
stopped.
Right.
Everyone's just kind of ringing out and singing "We Are the Champions" at the same time. And then we close down at 6 a.m. the next morning, and I find out that in that 36-hour period, we did $2.3 million worth of sales
Jesus fuck, that's a lot.
in 36 hours.
Yeah, that's.
We did
Oh my
we
God.
did we did a month's worth
Right.
of sales in 36 hours.
In a day and a half. Jesus
It was,
fuck.
yeah, it was insane. And it didn't. And the crazy thing was, it didn't even feel like it. It was
Right.
just
Oh yeah.
popping through. And then "We Are the Champions" came on, and then I'm surprised the lighters didn't come out. And so yeah, that's anytime anybody is talking to me about a terrible time, or they're in a terrible
Right.
time, I kind of look back on that and
Yeah.
it's kind of like that quote from from Ed Helms from The Office.
Mhm.
It was when you wish that when
You wish
were
you knew
in
the good old days,
you wish
yeah.
you knew you were in the good old days when they were happening.
Yeah.
So that was at the time. Everyone's just running on nothing but Red Bull, Mountain Dew, and pizza.
Mm.
We're just keeping, yeah, right. It sounds good, but it
No,
sounds
because I've
good
been
that
there.
Fuck yeah.
And then when it
Yeah.
finally hits you, you have the diarrhea from hell, or you just can't
Yeah.
shit. You get that dry clump that just won't come out, and you're yeah.
Oh yeah, we when I was on tour and shit like that, I used to call that 80 grit shit. Yep, coming out like a belt sander, man.
That's right. It's funny that you mention Black Friday. I usually try to keep the experiences to the person I'm interviewing, but I definitely got to share something very similar.
Oh yeah, I love
Um,
the Black Friday stories, man. They're the
it's
best.
not exactly like during, so it's kind of during, but a little bit before too. So how it was at Gander, and the night before, I told the store manager, told him, I will close the store down. I said, go home because you're going to be here for the next, like, God knows how many days. So told him to go home and get some rest because he was going to be back in the next morning at 4, I believe it was, to get ready to open the store at 5. So I told him, and we had closed at 10 that night. So I told him, I said, go home, I'll close the store. And he's like, okay, well then if you're going to close, he said, I still want you in the morning. He's like, but come in later, just a little later so you can still get a little bit of sleep. So we were busy right up until 9 o'clock. And then for some reason, just the last hour, we were not busy. So we closed up. Everything was all good. We set up everything for the next day. And I get home and I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm too excited. I can't, I can't, I can't do this. So I'm laying there. I took a nap, and I get up, whatever, because I laid there. You know that sleep where you're like sleeping but you're not. You're just laying there with your eyes closed and you're aware of everything.
Very well.
Well, you're not getting any REM sleep. You're just laying there. So it's like my alarm goes off, and I'm like, fuck it. I get up, I take a shower, and mind you, it's like 3:30, so I'm going right at 4 from leaving at 10, and I get in the car. Red Bull. I've got a bag. It's gonna sound terrible, but I've got a bag of Red Bulls sitting next to me, and I crack I roll down the window so that the cold air hits me. Crack it open, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. So I go on my playlist and I just hit shuffle, and I have no idea how it happened, but fucking DMX came on.
Oh,
So the
you all get
whole
hyped real quick.
yes, yes. So I'm going through. I get to work and I'm like, okay, let me try to put some different music on. For some reason, it was like 4 DMX songs in a row, and I'm like, this is crazy. But I'm not gonna stop myself now. I'm on this train already. So then I pull in, and fucking as soon as I pull in, I go to like turn the car off, but I'm like, you know what? I still have a couple minutes. I see everybody, like my boss and everybody over by the door getting ready to go in, and I turn it, and fucking Prince comes on.
Ooh, what? Which song? Which song? Do you
Um,
remember, or was it just?
I honestly at this point I don't remember. All I
It
know,
doesn't matter.
no,
It doesn't
it
matter.
honestly no, I lied. I want to say it was something else, but I'm pretty sure it was Purple Rain. It had to have
Oh
been.
yeah, man.
It had to have been. So of course, being it's 3:45 in the morning, I'm already wired, and I just felt like, and not being a jackass, but I was like, you know what? Let me just see what I can do here. Crank that bitch all the way up, and I'm sitting there just listening to Prince, and you see over by the door my boss and all the other guys, they're just over there on top of their lungs, purple rain, and it just like from the whole day, just from that point on, we just had like there was an energy, and I couldn't. I don't know what it like. I obviously understood it was like we were all just coming together because how tired we were and whatnot. But anytime we would do like a great sale, or we'd get someone to get a membership or like sign up for a credit card. Oh my God, we had these radios. So you've worked in stores where you had
Hmm.
radios where it was you could only
Oh yeah.
hear,
Hmm.
the customers couldn't hear, but you could hear.
Hmm.
Oh my God, I don't know how it started, but somebody pulled a Ric Flair the first time they got a big sale, and then just from that on, anytime anyone throughout this, all you heard,
Oh,
woo! And it was just like you didn't even need the radio. But of course, being jackasses, we were pushing the button so that way it could be heard. And so just periodically through the day, customers would be looking like, why are people yelling? And we're like, oh, we're excited to be here.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of Ric Flair,
Yeah,
real quick,
sure.
my one of my favorite managers I ever had, his name's Tom Wilson,
Okay.
Southern boy from Louisiana. Um, Came up kicking ass in retail and everything, and He was one of my managers at H.H. Gregg, and his buddy Duncan. Um, Anytime that he was around Tom,
Mm.
he would like out of the blue just go woo and chop him in the chest, right?
Right.
Well, Tom made the mistake of telling us that story.
Oh Lord.
And Duncan had done it so much that anytime Tom would like hear a woo, he would flinch.
Right.
So he'd be like dead in his sail, and Tom could sell a baby to another baby. Like he was just he would take it was amazing to watch. He would take
Right.
groups of customers around the store, and he would sell things to groups of people.
Right.
And and it got to the point where I would just kind of wait for him to be in the shit, and I would just kind of walk up by him and go, whoa, like that. He would jump, and I'd take him out of the sale real quick, and I would see how long it took him to get back into it.
Right. Oh, that's fucking glorious.
It's amazing. It's a little shit.
Oh, most definitely, and that's the thing one of the reasons I like bringing up the good, because it really does help, knowing that there are here and there things that help make it better. Because 100%, retail.
Those are the reasons why.
Yeah, retail is a shit show. I would never ever bullshit anybody who, when they ask you, what's your advice, get thick skin, get ready to be yelled at for something that's not your fault, but also cherish the good moments, because when they happen, it makes everything so much better.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like, especially if you're a manager in retail and you're a good manager, there's a really good book if anyone out there wants to read it and is really wanting to be a better leader. It's called Extreme Ownership. It's by a ex-Navy SEAL commanding officer named Jocko Willink.
Yep.
Amazing book. Goes through all of his trials and tribulations in Ramadi and all that shit, and all the stuff he went through and learned how to be a great leader. And like, if you're a manager, it's your fault. It doesn't matter if it's not. It is. And if you're not willing to take ownership for something that your employee screwed up, they screwed up mainly because you didn't train them properly. Even if you did,
right,
there's something there that you missed, and you got to be prepared for that.
Yes, 100%. And I honestly couldn't agree with you more. And I've always been a firm believer in the concept of not always, but employees don't quit jobs; they quit bosses.
Yeah, there's 100%. Yeah, it's, any job that I like to say, and it's not my quote. It's a quote from Adam Savage. I'm wearing his Savage Industries shirt right now.
Fantastic.
It's I've worked every job in my life for either a year or an hour, and any time that I've pulled the ripcord in a job, it's because of the person that I was working for. Never because I hated the job. I mean, you're gonna hate jobs, right? There's gonna be time you could work the best job in the world, and there'll be times that suck. But the people that make it better usually are the people that you're working for, and the people that make it worse are usually the people you're working for.
Yep.
So, 100% agree with that.
Yeah. So to kind of turn it on its head here and go into the opposite end of that, what would you say is your worst memory of working retail?
My worst memory of working retail is when I got fired from Guitar Center.
Oh boy.
That's my worst memory of retail. And again, it stems back to just exactly what we were talking about.
Okay. Is it something you're allowed to go into detail on, or?
Yeah, no,
okay.
there's nothing illegal that happened.
No, I didn't mean it by that.
It's improper training and all that kind of stuff. So basically, what's done when you ring up commission sales is your number's on.
Right.
Your number is associated to that sale, so you get credit and all that kind of stuff. And when you're comping, like if you have a big ticket customer, like for my big ticket customers, if someone's spending $5,000 with me and they're getting all these accessories and shit, Like if they're my main guitar that I would sell all the time was a Eric Clapton signature acoustic guitar.
Okay.
It was the most expensive acoustic guitar in the shop, and my goal from day one was like, I'm going to sell one of those a week. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
And for weeks there, I would do that. Now that customers come in, they're looking for a strap and all that kind of stuff. So I'd comp that. I'd be like, that's thrown in. You don't have to. You just spent $5,000 with
Right.
me. I'm not gonna piss and moan over $200
Right.
or $100 or $50. And the way I was trained to ring up comp sales was to ring them on a separate ticket.
Okay.
So you have your comp sales, what you basically gave the customer,
Hmm.
and what they bought. Right?
Sure.
It made sense to me when I was taught it.
Okay.
And I did that. And apparently that was the base level wrong thing to do
All right.
because it looks like you're just giving things away to customers.
Gotcha. So there's no
Right?
like paper trail to show why this is free.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so and that's the way I was trained. And now I completely understand why someone would be fired for that because it looks like you're just giving people shit.
Right.
That's not the reason this is the bad part. The reason this is the bad part is I had just sold that guitar.
Right.
And I had done that. I had, comped the guy like he wanted a strap for like a cool. We had these Joe Satriani surfing with the alien straps.
Okay.
With these crazy like tribal designs.
Yeah.
And his son was really into Joe Satriani. And I was like, well, go get one of those. That's on me for your son's guitar.
Right.
And he was like, no. And I'm like, yeah, dude, go right ahead. You just bought a guitar for yourself, a guitar for your son, cases for everything,
Right.
an amplifier for your son. You just went crazy. You made my week in a day.
Right. What's a fucking
Whatever
strap?
you want.
Right.
What's a fucking strap?
Yeah.
And I did that. I keyed the sale in and everything. And about 20 minutes later, I get called to the office.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. I mean, this happens all the time to talk about sales numbers and things like that. I'm a manager, and one of my other managers called me in the office. And I get into the office, and I open the door, and in there is my general manager, my assistant team lead, the loss prevention manager, and my district manager.
Oh, great.
And I'm like, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
And they were like, have a seat. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And on the phone, muted, was the CFO of the company. And I'm like, and the room's dead silent.
Right.
Like, I have no idea what's going on. And my district manager was like, so first, and what was most fucked up about the whole thing is that they led with congratulating me for selling so much.
Right.
They were like, first of all, you're killing it.
Mm-hmm.
You're killing it. Like, we don't like, and they were like, we're incredibly impressed by your work ethic and everything. But we see that you've been comping we have these comp tickets with your name. We have these tickets that have 0 on them with items. He's like, why are you stealing inventory?
Oh, God.
And I'm like, why am I stealing inventory? He's like, yeah, that's what this looks like. It looks like you're stealing inventory. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, so you're accusing me of stealing from the company.
Right.
And he's like, no, we're not accusing you of stealing from the company. That's just what it looks like. He's like, is there any explanation? And I said, well, yeah, there is an explanation. I was trained that way. And my store manager, like, dropped their head. Because they weren't the ones that taught me.
Okay.
The ones that came before taught me. And he was like, yeah, I was trained that way. I thought that's the way you did it. And then the room went quiet.
All right.
And I'm like, so what's going on here? And he's like, well, we've done a deep dive on your sales, and you've done this about 13 times. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, I ring up 60 customers a day,
Right.
whether it's for me or for other people.
Right.
Why are you bugging me on 12 tickets?
Right.
Like, or 13 tickets? What's going on here?
Seeing as though you just sold probably about 10 grand worth of merch to somebody.
Yeah, seeing that just that day.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? He's like, well, basically, what we need for you to do is we need you to make a statement, and then we need your keys, and you need to go home.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, wait, I before I could even say anything, the CFO chimed in, and he was like, you're taking money out of my pocket. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure that's correct, but I didn't say that because I was scared.
Oh my
I
god.
didn't say that because I was fucking terrified.
Right.
I didn't know what was about to happen. And they were like, yeah, we're gonna need you to make a statement, and we need your keys. You need to go home. We'll call you in the morning. We'll call. I mean, well, not we won't call you in the morning, but we'll call you.
So I don't want to mean to interrupt you, but before you go any further, was their issue was that you were comping items or that you were comping them on a separate ticket?
That was their issue. They were there. I was the way it looked. They were angry at the way it looked, not what I was doing. Okay.
Okay.
And looking back on it, it's like, yeah, if someone sees me do that, they're going to think that's the correct way of doing things, and then that person's going to get in trouble. So I understand the reasoning behind it,
But to
but
have your boss, your district manager, loss prevention, and the fucking CFO on the phone,
mhm,
I mean, that's like blatantly, like off the bat, automatically got
yeah,
in your head that, okay, what the fuck? Like, you automatically have your mind made up, for one.
yeah,
And for
like I
two,
was,
like, they could have pulled up the fucking footage of the sale you just fucking did and saw that these
mhm,
people walked out with this merchandise.
yeah,
Oh
mhm,
my god.
yeah. So so I mean, and bear in mind that I've got a full staffed sales floor. I just opened the store that day.
Right.
Everybody's been working with me. Everybody's been kicking ass all day. And then all of a sudden I walk out of the store with my district manager, and I walk out, I log out, I clock out, I hand him my keys, and I walk out the door. And at this point in my life, I had a girlfriend. It wasn't Tiff. I had a girlfriend. We had an apartment
Mm-hmm.
and everything. And this is the job that
Paying your
this
bills.
was my dream job
Right.
too. That I'm paying my bills, and I'm doing well. And I don't hear anything for about 12 hours, and then my store manager calls me. My store manager calls me, and she's in tears. She's like, she can't hold it back over the phone, and she's like, Jason, we got to let you go. And I'm like, did you take into but wait a minute here. You got to let me. You're firing me on what pretense?
Right.
And she's like, Jason, I can't talk about it. We just have to let you go. And it it later comes out, and I'm not going to say who it was that pressured her,
Mm-hmm.
or because it's only under assumption, but I and others are assuming that she was pressured and was like, listen, it's either him or you. And I don't blame her because she wasn't involved with anything,
Right.
and she chose me.
Yeah.
So the shitty part of my retail experience, and that's why in every job subsequent after that, in if I'm in a managerial role, I
Mm-hmm.
always strive to have heavily trained
Yeah.
employees.
100%.
Every policy that comes up, every change to the handbook, every change to any kind of money policy, any sort of inventory policy. I always make sure and made sure that anyone that worked for me knew it inside and out before we even move forward on anything. Because I know at a meta level the consequences of being of not knowing the correct information and getting caught up in a mistake like that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a again. I hate to throw Gander in there, but there was a situation with Old Gander Mountain where, and of course, now if anyone's asked about it, it was never that way. But there was a training section where customer service, if anyone brought their gun in to either get sold or to get work on it, we had to get it put into a case, and we had to make sure that it was safe to go back to firearms. Not safe, but it was sealed so that it could go back to firearms.
sure,
Well, there was an old procedure where they were like, where even when I was in customer service, they were trained. You ask them, is it loaded? And then have them put it in the case. Well, and I guess they wanted us to to ensure that it was unloaded. Well, these two
sure.
customer service ladies asked this guy who came in. Dude came in first off, was inebriated, had four different rifles, and was in with his wife and two kids.
Jesus.
The customer service ladies asked him if his gun was loaded. He took the gun out, said, "No, it's not loaded." Bang! Gun went off in the fucking store. A 308.
Holy
A
shit.
fucking 308.
308?
Yes. Left a hole in the ground this big. The bullet hit the concrete and shattered. Thank God it didn't ricochet, because from where this hole was, my footwear employee was standing. 85-year-old Dave would have destroyed him.
Oh, it wouldn't have mattered where it hit him.
No, he would have been dead.
Wouldn't have mattered where it hit him. It killed him.
So,
Holy shit.
so the police showed up, took everyone's statement, arrested the dude on the spot because not only was he inebriated, but he was on parole, so he wasn't even allowed to be drinking, wasn't even allowed to own firearms.
Good Lord.
Next couple days, corporates trying to figure out what happened, blah blah blah, cover up. Oh well, they never said that they need to make sure it's unloaded. So the two ladies in customer service got fired because they were not doing their jobs properly.
Bro.
Yeah. So then, as soon as that happened, it was everybody needs to be retrained on how we take in guns. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's fucking intense,
Yep.
man.
So I
Yo.
was there that night when it happened, and let me tell you, I was in the back room with my co-closing supervisor, Zach. Zach's an awesome guy. He was the kind of person he would like. If you didn't almost piss your pants like 3 times while you worked with him, then must have been in a bad mood. He was he I don't know exactly how long he served, but I know he was a Marine in Iraq or Afghanistan. So he
Jesus
had a
Christ.
lot of stories to tell, like just a lot of stories. So
Yeah.
instinctively, he heard that go off, and he of course is like breaking out through the door, reaching for a gun he doesn't have, and is like checking everything because he's thinking we're getting robbed and something just happened. So it was crazy seeing that change in him like that. Like you saw
Good
it in his
Lord.
eyes. Like you saw he was back in Baghdad or wherever he was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was definitely. Ugh. Thank God
Fuck.
nobody got hurt, but I'm glad that I definitely understand what you mean. And I feel terrible for anybody that happens to, that a company wants to cover their ass over anything else.
Yeah.
So really, with coming off of that story, that's a great question starter for one of my last questions. Is so I will take Guitar Center since that's something you loved. You said at one point it was your dream job. Would you ever go back if they offered you your job back? Or let's say they offered you a store manager position. If things were different, would you ever go back?
If if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like,
Because
go ahead.
it's not the it's I mean, subsequently thereafter, about a year later, there was a regime change
Right.
because there was more than just that going on.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, in a heartbeat, it was a great company to work for, and things have changed drastically, um, as far as the way they do business
Mm,
because of the internet. But yeah, if my situation was different and they were like, "Look, we can't deny the work that you did,
right.
um, and we understand what happened, but we really want you back," yeah, I would
Fantastic.
absolutely.
And
Hmm.
that's always awesome to hear because I have talked to people where they've said, hands down, no, they would never fucking step foot in one of these locations again. And honestly, not so much as stepping foot, but one of my like Dollar General, I worked for them, and it was just such a terrible place to work for. I would never work for them again at any level.
Hmm.
Obviously, if it was work for them or feed my family, I would definitely work for them to feed my family.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
Hmm.
I definitely see both ends of the spectrum on that. So
Sure.
I gotta say that was fantastic. I loved hearing everything that you had to say. Um, Definitely have a better understanding of the in-depth more into the sales concept of commissions and everything. And
Oh yeah.
I'm glad that there's other psychos out there like me that
Hmm.
like these crazy movies that hyper accentuate salesmen and
Oh yeah. Hmm.
but it
It's when you're in sales, man, and if you're even marginally good at it,
mm,
you're
it's
the doors open for you in a different way. That if you're able to, my favorite thing was to be able to see a customer
mm,
and know by walking over to them and greeting them and treating them like a friend
mm,
and asking them a couple questions, I could give them something that they had perhaps been looking for their whole life. You
yep.
know, like that's the coolest part of being in a one-on-one sales environment.
Yeah, and it's definitely for me, and I feel like you might agree with it. As somebody 2 episodes ago, my buddy Tim was on, and he is a in the process of his store down here in Texas. Once it all gets legalized, they're in the process of opening up a dispensary and whatnot. And he's been
Right on.
a long time proprietor of marijuana. Um, so
Finally on the books.
as somebody who's never done drugs or like smoked weed or anything like that, done a drug, done one weed or whatever. um, Shut up. But as somebody who's never done that, selling to me and getting a good sale has always been almost like a high to me.
Oh yeah.
like like to be able to go in and clinch a sale and upsell them on this or get this extra package but going on to it afterwards, the be able to enter all it in and just have it be completed, it's to me it's always been like I always called it a salesman's high, and it's a great feeling to
Hmm.
chase. um,
For sure.
so it's definitely an experience, and if it's something that you can't do, don't try it, because if you can't and you fail, you'll get eaten, like
No,
100%. You will get
you'll never do it again.
no, and you'll get shit out, and you'll just have the worst time ever. Um, but really, the way I like to end all of my shows, Jason, I really like to end it with a uplifting, motivational, and as somebody who's worked 18 years in retail and sales and whatnot, even though we seem to be on the tail end of this, what would you say to the people out there that are still working to kind of help motivate them? The people that are out there, stocking the shelves, making sure that we have food, toilet paper, even the cashiers that are ringing up stuff just so that you can, feed your family. What would you say to these people to help make it through?
Well, first of all, I say thank you. That's number one, and a lot of the times, all people in retail need to hear is appreciation.
Oh yeah.
And I've been lucky in the past couple of years to make a little bit of money doing the production stuff that I'm into right now, video production,
Mm,
music production, all those different types of things. Um, I'm working right now with a great dude in California, running his YouTube channel, and trying to blow him up on YouTube right now. His name is Jesse Merle. He does UFC commentary and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, I got I got lucky for that. But um, as far as any kind of motivation, it goes to a quote from Jocko. What Navy SEALs get told all the time is embrace the suck.
Yeah.
You know, uh, it's going to be bad. It's you're going to be in positions that you don't want to be in, whether it's in combat or in a sales position
Right.
or in just a regular, if you're a regular grunt out there on the sales floor who's just trying to get to that next level. Just know that you're providing a service, and you're doing a job that very few people are cut out for. And people would probably listen to that statement and be like, it's just ringing groceries, or it's just selling a couch, or it's just, pulling a guitar off of the counter, or it's, it's just selling someone a kitchen package. It's not.
It's no, not at all.
You're dealing with people at times in their most vulnerable or their most in need. And if you can provide a smile or a brief conversation or something that can take someone out of their stress bubble that everybody has and that everyone carries with them. I mean, we interact with retail associates sometimes more than we interact with our own families. So to the people out there that are doing that job and doing it and being as great as they can at it, it's like you're important, you're needed, you're the reason your company is doing as well as it is and could be. Your CEO and your president aren't there on the sales floor with you. You're doing it.
Right.
So I mean, just embrace the hardships. Be ready to fail. I mean, that's an overarching thing for anybody doing anything. It's like failure is going to happen. You're going to fall short. You're gonna come up short on something. Everybody does. And the people that succeed are the people that learn from that, and do your best every day to be one of those people that learn from failure, learn from hardship, and just at the end of the day, go home knowing you did everything you possibly could that day. And if you can say that, that's one thing my dad always would tell me if I was, if I had a shitty day or I was in a shit situation, is that as long as you go home every single day knowing you did everything you could, then no one can say anything about you, and you can't say anything about yourself either. So the bottom line, if you're there, thank you and keep doing it.
Yeah,
As best you.
I couldn't have put it any better myself, Jason, and that's absolutely fantastic. To anybody out there listening, I really hope that even if this only reaches one person who's having a shitty day and they hear it and they see that there's people who've done what they do, who are doing what they do, and who knows that there's people who care, that's what'll make me happy. Even if we reach one person,
Yeah.
let the people know that there are people who care, and that's what this is for. This channel, it might be me doing something I've always wanted to do, but this channel is more for everybody else.
Yeah.
I get the people on to tell their stories, to feel better about themselves for a little bit, and to just get it out there to let you guys know that you're not alone. Because again, Jason was telling me stories about how he got fired over a policy that he was trained on incorrectly. And again, I know people that the exact same thing happened. So you are absolutely not alone. Um,
Yep. One of us.
yeah, well, Google gobble, Google gobble. Whoa, one of
One
us.
of us. Exactly.
Oh my God. Well, I'm glad we could close off with another Wolf of Wall Street quote. So for everybody out there listening, I really appreciate you guys stopping in again. And Jason, again, couldn't have asked for a bet. Oh, I think I pounded on the desk too hard. There we go.
Nice forehead, Ray. Nice
Yes,
forehead.
thank you. It's very, very shiny.
Getting it. Mine too, man. Mine too.
Man. And
It's
what
the kids. It's every time you go, Jesus.
Yes. And then I hate this. I've got the fucking widow's peak that anytime I get a haircut, I always get them to cut it. Fucking come throws right back. I hate it. So, to everybody out there who was listening, thank you again for tuning in to another episode. Like I said, we try to do these every day, and if anybody listening, you want to come on, and you know the person who I've interviewed on that episode, get a hold of them. They'll know how to get a hold of me. I will literally let you come on, and we can talk about anything you want. Hell, again, if you were listening to this, Jason and I were talking about movies and selling techniques and whatnot. So please get on here and have a great time. Jason, is there any plugs you want to throw out before we close?
Uh, not really, man. Yeah, I do the same YouTube thing that you do. I've got my own channel. It's Jason Purcell. It's a vlog channel, film channel. I talk about everything from daily life to film techniques. Right now, I'm working on a series called Creating Fear 101. I go and I analyze how and why things terrify us in horror movies,
Gotcha.
and I also explain how filmmakers seem to be able to do that out of thin air.
Right.
So I'm working on that, and yeah, just having a good time trying to get a piece of the almighty dollar.
There you go. And at the end of the day, that's what you got to do sometimes. So I think that's a great way to close this show out. So everybody out there listening, again, thank you. Please make sure you like and subscribe. We've hit our 50th marker, but I'm not done there. We're going to keep pushing it. Everybody out there, thank you and have a fantastic evening.